Yeah, my talk will be a little bit comparable to that of Eva. I will have slightly more of a research focus, but the question Jill will ask, how will we integrate the knowledge into the medical curriculum? That's so on the forefront of our attention. So in the Netherlands, there have been good developments in that regard, I think, throughout Europe. Germany, Austria, other countries have been a tremendous push for more research in ME/CVS and post-COVID. I'll give you a little bit of the history, how things developed. I'm not sure whether it's common to other countries as well, but in the Netherlands you can petition your parliament to have to ask the parliament to initiate laws or initiate new policy on a particular topic. You have to collect 100,000 signatures, and then they can't ignore you. So what they did, they tried to ignore you, and so they tried it again in 2013. The first attempt was in 2009. And then they gave the National Health Council, who is installed to provide the government with advisory, they asked them to write a report. What should we do with ME/CVS? And the National Health Council gave a very strong advice: invest in a long-term, substantive biomedical research program into ME/CVS. That was the advice to the government. And so the Minister of Health then issued set funds apart and issued ZON-NW, which is our MRC, or NIH, our local NIH, to appoint a steering committee to develop a patient-led biomedical research agenda. You can find it online. I will provide you the link. And they developed a research agenda. So they had a wish list, basically, how research should look and how it should fulfill. And that research agenda was, again, approved by Parliament, budget for 28 million, and it was later increased to 33. And broadly, the aims of that program were to improve diagnosis, identify causes, and improve treatment of ME/CVS. And this is how it looks like. Search, if you want it, it's in English, so if you search for it, ZON-NW ME/CVS research agenda, you can read all about it. So give you a few highlights of what was in the agenda. Very central was that, well, building a biobank and patient cohort should be there as a key infrastructure for research. And that should fulfill certain criteria. Patients should be followed for multiple years. Should be a good representation of target groups, so young, old, children, even disease burden. So there should be special attention for young people and for home and bedbound patients. And logistics should involve home visits, house visits, with trained personnel that assess and assessments performed by experienced clinicians. Should be collaborative, so not isolated to one university. So university hospitals, universities should collaborate as broadly as possible. And different research disciplines, so we have cardiologists and immunologists, and as broad as possible. There should be good attention to international collaboration. We didn't have much tradition in this area, so we have to build up from the ground up, and we have to learn from our peers that are much more experienced, have a longer history in that area. And they strive for high standardization in collection and storage, open science policy, and fair data use. So in line with international standards and protocols. For example, utilize the common data elements as a standard, and standardize data with other research and cohorts in the Netherlands and abroad. So we carefully studied what other cohorts and studies did, what instruments they used, what protocols they used, and we took stock of that and made an inventory. So NMCB, the National ME/CVS Cohort and Biobank Consortium. It was an open call, so multiple attempts were made. 4 large initiatives sought funding. I led one of those, and to make a long story short, we won. And there's another one in north of the Netherlands, Groningen, ME/CVS Lines, which is a very impressive, huge longitudinal biobank cohort, a bit comparable, small version of the UK biobank, right? Not the UK ME-CVS biobank, but the UK biobank. Very large, extensive, and we work very closely together. So we were the ones that got the funding. Partly because we were very integrated with the patient organizations, I think, and we were broad. So all UMCs in the Netherlands, university medical centers, were involved without exception. So it was a very collaborative effort, and we're very proud that we succeeded in that. To make a very long story even shorter, so what the funding entailed is that the consortia are funded for 8 years for various reasons to prevent a situation where you do 4 years of research, looks promising, and then you have to close shop and researchers go away and open another shop. So you want to think long term, and also to develop a new generation of researchers to create potential, future potential in our country. So after 4 years of intensive training, you shouldn't lose your PhD students and postdocs, and they go to other fields, to cardiovascular research or cancer research or whatever. They should stay in the field, and that's why it's a long-term program. Attached to that program, there are multiple 4 years funded projects. At the moment, there are 6 projects funded. Recently, a call came out, many submitted, that will deliver an X number of other projects. I estimate around about 5 or 6 again, and there will be additional funding rounds in 2026 and 27. So what we developed, or are developing now, is a patient registry, so cohort that is, has its role on its own, but it's also a resource for patients or of patients that are willing to participate in trials and other studies. We have a neurobiobank, which we collect the MRI data, cognitive tests, and brain tissue. You saw it yesterday, post-mortem brain tissue with some patients. You saw that yesterday. And a biomaterials biobank, where we collect PBMCs, DNA, RNA, plasma, fecal samples, muscle biopsy, and CSF in a limited number of participants. Now, I separated it out, but essentially that's one biobank. But thematically, they're separate. And although not everybody got funded, 6 out of multiple applications were made, of course, and 6 were funded in the end, but we kept everybody on board. So it's still a nationwide collaborative effort, and they're part of the consortium, and they have roles in that. So we try to be very inclusive and put a lot of effort in that. So the mission of the NMCB is to establish a collaborative national research infrastructure that collects and secures high quality patient data to test hypotheses that will lead to a sound mechanistic understanding of ME/CVS and post-acute infectious syndromes, and to see the translation to rational diagnosis and treatment. That was what we wrote in the grant. It builds on the principles of multidisciplinarity and patient and stakeholder involvement and open science. At the start of it, I got tremendous support from various organizations, many of those who are here. Jonas Bergquist spent hours on me on something that could have been a total lost project. He never heard of me, and he's really put the effort in to teach me and to help me, and it's true. Linda Tannenbaum just wrote a letter of support, and other people here as well. I mean, Decode and me, they provide me with guidance on how to set up a patient-guided infrastructure. It's a tremendous help that I got at the start, and I'm extremely grateful. Without that, it wouldn't have succeeded. So I told you before that we carefully took stock of what was happening in other countries across the pond and here, and we harmonized as much as we could with other biobanks and cohorts. You can't copy everything from everybody, but we try to find some middle ground where we could. I have a fair data manager, unbeknownst to you. He is taking stock still of what everybody is doing and linking it to ontology. So hopefully we, as a give back, we can provide you with totally verified data, your own data, that's machine readable as well. So this is our basic inclusion protocol. It's a 2-step protocol. People sign up, do they meet the case criteria, there are no exclusion comorbidities. If that's yes, then they're in principle enrolled. They go through a physical assessment, we do a medical record review, there's a serological assessment, quite extensive, and a verification by an MD, and then they're included. On the right side, you see the exclusion criteria. I was hesitant when I would put it in because it probably will raise more questions than it gave answers. The exclusion criteria are slightly more finicky, and also depending on the study. So if there's for example, a trial starting now on a medication trial, and they have very strict exclusion criteria. So we adapt to that. It's slightly adapted to the studies that need the samples. But this is globally correct and true. And you can ask any questions about it later on. So this is the cohort timeline. We have, first of all, we prepared and validated everything, all the procedures together with patients and tryouts and try to set it up. That took approximately a year. And since November, we're started recruiting and biobanking. We're trying to make a good push over the next months. And the whole procedure will take 2.5 years. And then we follow up. And the whole project is divided essentially in phase 1, where we do basic and epidemiological research, fundamental research, and hopefully phase 2, where we aim for more clinical research. We can use the findings and translate them somehow. This is how the cohort will look like. 650 ME/CVS patients, 25% are house or bed bound, 450 healthy controls, 350 clinical controls, which are acute fever and Lyme patients, and 650 long COVID patients, also 25% home and bed bound. And in Utrecht, we have also a cohort of young adults with ME/CVS. We have already collected 180, and now they want to push to 280 and 180 matched controls. So what we collect online, do the questionnaires and cognitive tests. These are valid, and the patient can do that in their own time in a paced manner. And on location or at a home visit, we collect samples and do assessments. And when they're able to go to the hospital or they're capable to go to the hospital with specialized transport, we do the same thing. And a subsample will undergo an MRI, and an even smaller subsample gets a biopsy and a CSF. So when the nurse visits you, or when you visit the hospital, the nurse collects blood, urine, and a fecal sample that you bring with you, and also does an orthostatic, the nasoline test, a muscle strength hand grip test, ECG, height, weight, and bioimpedance, the usual suspects, oxygen saturation, and flexibility, the Baton score. And sometimes there are additional tests if patients volunteer, depending on specific study needs. And this is what, if you're into MRI, this is the set that we do. It's a structural MRI. It's 3 scanning locations. That's also what we try to do. Most of it is now in Amsterdam UMC, but we do the measurements at 3 locations across the country. It's not a big country. So what you see here is a radius of approximately 55 kilometers, an hour travel time. And the center of it are 3 academic medical centers. And at 1 hour travel time, that's convenient for the patients who travel, but also convenient for us. We can visit them and make sure that the transfer samples are back at the lab within an hour. So we can maintain high quality of the samples. So recruitment. We thought that recruitment of patients would be a huge problem, but the main problem is getting our own logistics in order because many patients are volunteering. We have, through the patient organization, 1,300 signed up, and 1,500 now 550 are now in the intake phase, meaning they get a screener, they get invited, they get interviewed, and so forth. For long COVID patients, and I'll explain in a minute how we do that, we have now 6,000 that expressed an interest to be enrolled in our biobank, out of 16,000 that volunteer to participate in research. And so there are different sources. Our main issue is now finding controls. That's the main problem, really, control patients, so healthy controls. And the patient organizations have been tremendously helpful in mobilizing this interest. And there's several cohorts and other biobanks that we recruit patients from. In parallel, a few years later, another funding call came out, basically the same procedure that I showed you for ME/CVS. It had to do with post-COVID. That is not long-term funded. There's only 3-year funding for it, and it provides a structure, infrastructure, a little bit comparable to what I showed you, but more extensive, and a large number of 2-year funded research projects. And whether will we continue with funding, that's rather unsure. And with it come also that's very exciting. The lady on the right is our Minister of Health. She's opening a clinic. She's opening the post-COVID clinic. So all university medical centers in the Netherlands have now a specialized clinic for post-COVID care. And they will be funded for the next 3 years. And after that, there will be a review, and then probably several centers will remain, or we don't know what happens. But again, the patient organizations were very powerful in getting this done. So we have clinical care in academic medical centers. We have a research infrastructure for long COVID and ME/CVS research. And part of that infrastructure is a portal, is a part of the website, a bit busy website, but people sign up there and they enroll in an online questionnaire. And they fill out their preferences for research, the demographics, how they can be contacted, a whole list of medical screening data. And thus far 16,000 have signed up. The list on the right gives you a bit of a picture of how they look like. Half of them are moderately to highly educated, and 90% of them fulfill the DSQ PEM criteria, fill out the DSQ PEM questionnaire and have reported PEM according to that checklist. So just to give you an impression. Part of the infrastructure also is a platform trial. I don't show you the slide with the structure of a platform trial, but it's ongoing now. 1,500 patients will be enrolled. And in the first wave, we do metformin and colchicine, and after that, myocycline will be added to that trial. And it will be running the next 2 years. So this far, they have 185 included. They want to go to 1,500, and enrollment is going quite well, actually, thanks to that infrastructure that I just showed you. So, closing, I told you that for the NMCB, 6 research projects were funded. They make use of their participants and our samples, and I will not do them justice. I will just go through a slide and show you the title and a little bit of an impressionist thing of their studies, but you have an idea of what studies are ongoing in the Netherlands. So the first one, many of you know, is a study by Rob Woest. It's the abbreviation is muscle ME. It's about skeletal muscle alterations and post-exertional malaise in patients with ME/CVS. That's ongoing, and Anouk Slaghekker presented this part of the initial data here. So we're now 1 year into the project, and the first preliminary data is coming out now, so you will see more of that. Another presentation was from Felipe, and that's the brain bank data where he analyzes post-mortem brain tissue. That's the other study. A third study is a multi-omic comparison between ME/CVS and between ME/CVS and post-acute infectious syndromes. That's done at another university medical center. And actually Kate Moody, many of you know her, she's in the audience as well. She's the PhD student on that project. Then there's several other projects on the way. One led by Niels Eikelkamp, who is working with children. It's a youth and children study, and is evaluating the link between autoimmunity and derangements in immune cell metabolism in ME/CVS. Then you have autoimmunity as a cause of ME/CVS by Jeroen den Dunne. He's doing he's injecting serum of patients in mice, so transfer studies. and doing a lot of behavioral tests and see what characteristics, patient characteristics are replicated in this animal model. I think that you have seen several presentations of these type of studies in animal models before. Immune Stratify is a study in Rotterdam. They try to find molecular immune signatures as a stratification tool for personalized treatment. And this long list, this last list, I told you about the post-COVID initiative, the post-COVID network in the Netherlands. They funded a large number of short-term projects, 2-year projects, and several of them, 11 of them, will be affiliated with NMCB. Many of them are actually researchers within our consortium, so they just got more funding. And of those 11 projects, they will partly make use of our samples. And of course, I won't read out all the titles, but the keywords is there: microclot, pediatric post-COVID, post-exertional malaise, orthostatic intolerance, so all the regular topics. If you have any questions about that, please contact me, because we're happy to collaborate with serious researchers. And you saw yesterday a presentation of one of the projects. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't go too much over time.
Thank you.